Theologians are obsessed with the problem of evil. They got to deal with it.
Yep.
How do you deal with it?
They should be concerned about it because it's a big problem. That is, if God is all powerful and all good and bad things happen, those are incompatible in my mind. And so if there was a single argument in that sort of category of analytical philosophy arguments for or against God's existence, this is a huge one. Because if there is a God, why do bad things happen to good people? Now, granted, humans have free will, according to theologians, and so people choose to do bad things to other people. I'm not talking about that kind of evil. Granted, that's bad, but why do innocent children get leukemia and die and suffer just insufferable pain? Why should that be? And the believer will say, oh, well, God, in his infinite wisdom has some higher purpose. Well, thanks a lot. Try telling that to a parent who has to suffer through that, or to the child itself. To me, that is an unsatisfactory answer, and it doesn't answer the ultimate question of sort of if God's all good and powerful, why can't he step in and stop that? I think the answer is because he can't, or he doesn't exist. And so to me, the problem of evil is huge.
Theologians would say that that is a superficial understanding of God, that God in his purpose has some greater purpose for the totality of the universe or totality of humanity or something, so that all of the machinations of what happens is built into the creation of something beyond what we could do, and that if you force God to create a world the way you want it to create a world, which is a two-dimensional picture of everything nice and everybody has smiles on their face and nobody gets leukemia, that is a world that is a suboptimal world.
Sure, but that to me is just a rationalization that's no better and actually a worse argument than saying there is no God and bad things just happen to everybody and to anybody. I mean, cancer, we know, we have some understanding of what happens. Your body is made of hundreds of trillions of cells that are constantly dividing. Every once in a while, the law of large numbers says that one of them is going to mutate and be unable to stop replicating, and it has a runaway replicating effect, and there you go, you have cancer. And it happens in just the kind of way that would happen if there were no God, if it was just random stuff going on and the law of large numbers kicks in, and that's what happens. And to me, that's a better explanation than there's a higher being that makes that happen or allows it to happen and has some higher purpose that we get to find out in the next life what it all meant. That's, to me, an unsatisfactory answer.
There are two kinds of evil that you referred to. One is a moral evil, a free will evil, and the other is this accidental evil that is imposed on us by reality. Which one weighs more in terms of the argument against God?
Well, I think the second one, the natural things happen argument. I mean, plate tectonics and thrust faulting, and you happen to build a house there and people die. Okay, well, that's perfectly explainable by geology. What I'd want to know from the theologian is, but why would God allow that to happen? Well, he works in mysterious ways. That's not good enough for me. To me, that's much worse. Evolution actually explains nicely the first kind of evil. And I don't even like the word evil. It implies that there's some entity that exists outside of our description of good and bad behavior. When the current administration talks about the evildoers and Osama bin Laden is evil, it almost implies that he has like a homunculus in his brain making him do these evil things. Hitler was evil in what he did to the Jews, as if he couldn't help it, like there was some force driving him to do this. This is wrong. It's not even wrong. It's so wrong that it doesn't help us understand why this would happen in the first place, why humans do bad things, and therefore we can correct and prevent it in the future. But evolution, I think, nicely explains it, that we are both good and bad. We're within group cooperative and altruistic and pro-social, and between group we're pretty nasty and bellicose, and there's a lot of enmity there and xenophobic. And evolution explains that, I think, better than theology does.
The theological picture, though, is that if you had God making this perfect world where nothing bad ever happened, that the ability to generate human character, as some theological thinkers would put it, soul building, the way some would put it, that would be impossible. That you can't have soul building, you can't have character building in a world that is so pristine and perfect and so four-cornered. You have to have a richness, you have to have the uncertainty, and you have to have the ability for bad things to happen so that, to take an argument, people can cooperate together and can deal with the evil or the trauma. And if you didn't have that opportunity for trauma, you wouldn't have the greater good of people being forced to think and work together to combat that. I mean, it's a richness, there's a texture here.
Yeah, life is richer. We can know what good is because we know what evil is. The valleys have depth because there's mountains around them. Of course, that's true, but why isn't that true without God and theology? Just bad things happen to good and bad people, and we deal with it, and life is richer for it. It's only after the fact that we look at it and go, okay, why did my child die of leukemia? Well, it made me a better person. I founded this institute for research on cancer to help families who have suffered this, and they're better for that. I'm a richer person for it. But would you ever actually wish that on somebody? Would you actually ever purposely design a society in which we're going to impose leukemia on an X number of people just to make our society a richer group of people? No, you would never do that. That would be insane. We would consider you evil for designing it that way. So it's only after the fact that we look and try to find some silver lining in the cloud.
Let's take the given that everybody's going to die, whether it's 70 years or 100 years or 120 years.
What?
Everybody's going to die.
Oh.
So that's the end result, whether we like it or not. So the ability to design a reality in which the totality of humanity, whatever that's going to be, is going to have the richest and most in-depth and satisfying and enriching kind of experiences, has to have, this is the argument, has to have all of these terrors and troubles and traumas built into it, or as a totality, that humans would be, the human society would be much worse off.
But if you were going to design a system, wouldn't you rather have it where the challenges are, say, non-fatal? They're plenty challenging, and they cause you to have to improve yourself and work hard and make sacrifices. But why add this extra component of death and suffering and complete total misery? Why would you do that as a designer? If you were a government leader that said, look, I got this great plan. We're going to kill off a certain number of our population by the most miserable, horrible, torturous deaths we can think of, because it's character building. You'd never get elected with a program like that. And yet we say this is what God does, and we think this is a great, wonderful, worshipful thing. I don't think so.